Welcome to yet another episode of the Keep It or Change Cars podcast. It is proudly brought to you by CHANGECARS, South Africa's most trusted online car buying platform. If you're looking for a new car, used car, motorbike, whatever it is, get onto CHANGECARS and you won't be scammed. We proudly also endorse Discovery. If you're looking for insurance, I'm under Discovery, or you?
Of course.
We'll get you on there soon enough.
No, I think it is 3 for 3.
Really? Awesome. Now we've got Adam Ford again joining us. Adam, are you well?
Good to be back.
Good
Michael, good to see you again.
Appreciate having
Adam
me.
Ford, Michael Pursuit, the owner of CHANGECARS. Welcome.
The proud owner of CHANGECARS.
Proud owner.
And proud to have you as the host.
Thank you. So let's get into it. Our first question is from Selwyn. He's 47 years old and he's self-employed and he's from Nelspruit in Mpumalanga. Now,
That's probably drives a bucky.
Yeah, well, exactly. Smart. He does drive a bucky, actually. So he wants to get our opinion on his 2009 Toyota Hilux T4D double cab with, believe it or not, 563,000 Ks on the clock.
For me, that alone is just absolutely incredible. When I tell people that Toyotas will do 500,000 plus, they say, yeah, but you'd have, I say, trust me, I guarantee you, unopened engine. I mean, obviously, we're going to hear his question. Isn't that incredible, Adam?
No, it's normal.
Okay. That's,
normal.
So
that's
people
brilliant.
don't think that's normal, right?
Yeah.
People fuss about 200,000 Ks, 300. I mean, 500, 500,000.
500 plus.
Remember-
But is it fair to say, just quickly, your average German car that you would expect to do that won't do that?
No, and we talked about this in the last show. Remember, we were talking about quality of cars.
Sure.
And I'm saying quality, what is quality? Quality is this. It may not, feel quality or look quality or whatever, but that's what you want out of
sure.
a car. You want to buy a car and you want it to do 563,000 Ks.
That's
And
incredible.
you're phoning in for what sort of silly question? Has he got flat tire or
Well,
something?
it's not really silly. So he's had the Bucky since brand new, and he says he's never missed a single service on the Bucky, and he services it at the same Toyota dealership every single time. So he wants to know if you should consider overhauling the engine, considering the fact that it uses a liter of oil between services. There is no smoke in the car, he says, and he says performance has improved over time. Fuel consumption has decreased by 8%. So
But it means it got better.
it got better by
It
8%.
got better.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
So what are your guys' thoughts?
I would say just keep on driving it. There's a lot of European cars, that would put in a liter of oil every time you put petrol in the car. So 1 liter in 10,000 kilometers is absolutely nothing. If you weigh up the cost of it, if you're going to rebuild an engine, something like that's going to cost you maybe 50, 60,000 Rand to do it. That's a hell of a lot of oil you can buy. You can just buy yourself, if you're going to a Toyota dealer, go to a Toyota dealer and ask them for a couple of liters of their oil, the oil they're putting in it. Put it in the garage, check it when you need to just top it up. No, keep the car. Don't
But
do
I
that.
think what is key here, he mentioned the performance has not gone down.
No.
So that immediately says there's no fundamental problem with the engine. The fuel consumption has improved. It's very simple. That engine, for want of a better description, is so loose now. A liter of oil, as Adam said, is absolutely nothing.
Yes,
I remember a BMW 325 I bought in the mid-90s. I was using half a liter, one pint, every 1,000, 1,500
So
kilometers.
help me understand, where does the oil go? If it's
Just
not
natural
smoking?
burn. Just natural burn. It's just going through the valves, going through the exhaust.
So people say to me, my car's using oil, I must check it. Where's it coming from? There's only 2 places oil comes from. It either leaks on the floor or it goes out your exhaust. It's as simple as
Are you focusing on Land Rover or are you focusing on the Toyota in this
I got a
particular
Land Rover. I
case?
don't have an oil leak yet. No, but really, if your car's using oil, 1 liter per 10,000 kilometers is absolutely nothing. When you're getting more than, let's say, a half a liter for every tank full, then it's something to consider,
Sure.
because then you'll have smoke coming out the exhaust. You're going to have pollutants going into the air, and that oil will end up in your air filters and create lots of other issues. That's when you sort of worry about it. But 1 liter in 10,000 Ks, nothing to worry
But one of
about.
the things specifically someone said was there was no smoke. When people talk about smoke, am I right in saying generally on startup, escaping through valve stem seals on a petrol,
Yeah.
Little leak.
hard acceleration?
Big
If
puff
a
of
car's
smoke.
using oil, you will notice it.
Yeah.
This car's not burning
And it
oil.
smells foul as well at
Correct,
the back.
correct.
Yeah, nothing to worry about.
Okay.
Really nothing to worry about.
What do you reckon you'll get there? I mean, again, it's not a,
In terms of mileage out of the car.
Yeah, how far?
that engine should never give up.
Well, eventually, obviously, like everything, it's a mechanical part, it will wear out. But it just goes to show good servicing and maintaining your vehicle, you can get longevity out of it. You're getting he's talking 600,000 kilometers out of a car. He's got his money's worth out of that car when it clocked 250,000 k's.
Correct.
From there to now, he's just reaping the benefits of it.
So now I promise you, I deal in this. The Toyota Quantum 2.5 diesel, fundamentally the same engine as a 3 liter.
It's basically the same thing.
Million kilometers,
Really?
only the clutch done, and 1 diff. Not a gearbox, not an engine.
And those things
unopened,
work.
100%.
Day in,
Tour
day out.
operator runs it between Joburg and Sun City, so predominantly open road mileage, but 1 million kilos. Selwyn, you got 400,000 kilos to go before you even look at the record.
Wow.
Driving a car on long distance is always great for it because it's always at its operating temperature. The cars that are the worst cars is when
Stop-start.
when I buy your granny's car. You know your granny's Toyota Taz that you drove and it's only done 40,000 kilometers and you should had it for 25 years. The minute you take it on the highway, it explodes and just drops its guts all over the highway. So the best cars are actually sometimes better to buy a car with high mileage.
For sure.
That's been done in a short period of time than one that's got no mileage that's done in a long period
Now,
of time.
talking about petrol, for example, a 25-year-old car that's got 50, 60,000 Ks, you wouldn't be opening it up naturally. But if you took that piston and you could look at it, it will have carbon on top of that piston. Am I right?
It's normal. It's absolutely normal from the pollutants that go into it, the combustion process. You will get that.
But now that same Conquest, 250,000 kilos on the open road, would there be less carbon on the piston?
Not necessarily. You must remember that the wear is what's on top of the piston has absolutely got nothing to do with anything, really. It's where the bore is worn and the piston to bore clearance is where your oil consumption comes from. And the only way you do that, I mean, we see that in my workshop, when we take engines apart and we measure the bore and measure the piston and see the tolerances there. And then there is obviously specified tolerances. If they're out of those tolerances, you need to rebore it and put new pistons in. But nowadays, we get engines, you take a part that's done 500,000 kilometers and there's absolutely zero wear in the bores.
Of course. We just need to mention to Selwyn also that when he does want to sell it, CHANGECARS would still love to buy it. Of course.
Absolutely. Of course. So Selwyn, do not overhaul, keep it and keep driving, correct?
Correct.
Lovely. Change Cars proudly endorses Absa Vehicle Finance for your dream car. Today's clearly a day for the legendary Toyota Hilux. Our next question actually is about the Hilux again. This time it's a 2.7 litre petrol, 2015. And the question comes from Faisal in Paris. Faisal wants to know what our opinion is on his fuel consumption. So he wants to know whether he's bought a lemon or not. He feels like the fuel consumption in this car is way, way too high. So he says, despite driving largely on open roads between Paris and Bloemfontein or Paris and Pretoria, he says he can't get anything less than 12 litres per 100. Is that normal for that engine?
Wow. He gets 12 litres per 100 out of a 2.7 Hilux.
You're doing well.
He should enter it into one of those economy runs. He could win it. Because that's one thing about those 2.7s. They are very heavy on juice. I actually I've got one of those buckies at work we use as a runaround. And my staff don't even want to use it. They used to. Can I borrow the bucky? Sure, take the bucky. And they come back on the Monday. I say, no, I don't want to use it again. Why not? Well, I just went and fetched a motorbike from a mate of mine, came back and I used a tank of juice. They're very heavy on petrol.
Inherently heavy. That same engine, I spoke about the Toyota Quantum for our last question. The 2.7 VVTi is used in the Toyota Quantum as well.
Yeah.
Give you an example. Joburg to Nelspruit and a Quantum diesel. My drivers will get there with a half a tank of fuel. They will literally just get there.
Well, on 3 tanks.
Excellent engine in terms of longevity. The kind of mileage that the gentleman got out of his Hilux 500,000 plus. I think you will do that on the petrol as well.
Mine's on 450,000.
No problems. But the question specifically was regarding his fuel consumption. Has he bought a lemon? He's bought a sweet lemon.
So his lemon is quite
beautiful.
sweet at 12 litres per 100.
You know what? You're getting a bulletproof, reliable car there. So you're spending a little bit more for fuel,
Yeah.
but you're not spending it on the maintenance of it because they're really good cars. You could have bought something else that was a bit more fuel efficient, but you'll spend money on the maintenance. So, it swings and roundabouts.
And it's often people don't realize that.
Yeah.
For every negative, there's a positive. I often use a saying in the motor trade, if the one was definitively better, the other wouldn't exist. You got a petrol and you got a diesel.
Yeah.
If there was no pros to the one and only cons, the other wouldn't exist. You know what I'm saying? So
Very true.
I do like the car.
Yeah.
And Faisal, 12 litres per 100, well done.
good,
You got
too.
a light right foot.
He mentioned lemons. Now we want to talk about lemons. Every manufacturer has a lemon. And one of them, Toyota, I can remember. Do you remember the Toyota Innova?
Innova, yeah.
Innova, however you pronounce that.
Please, when you come on the show, pronounce yeah. No, I'm joking.
Innova.
Yeah.
That was a lemon. Why? Because it had the wrong engine in it. It had the 2.7 petrol engine in it.
100%.
And people bought it and they drove them for a couple of months.
7-8 seater, if I remember.
It was like 7, 8
100%.
seater. Yeah.
But again,
Just never worked.
it was ugly.
Yeah.
That didn't do it any favors. But
Had a gas guzzler engine in it.
100%. Completely the wrong engine. I didn't even think about the Innova.
Yeah. That's a lemon. Although it's a great car, but it's not one you want as a family car because you can't afford your kids' school fees because you're putting so much fuel in that thing.
Having said that, if you've got a big family and you're looking for a 6, 7, 8 seater in the 80,000 Rand range today, there are quite a few of them on the market. Never been popular. It's not an Avanza type popular.
Yeah.
But
It's got a distinct noise, that engine, if I remember. It's got a high revving,
Like a whine.
Yeah.
Has it got a viscose fan?
Yeah.
That's why you hear that.
Just idles like that.
Yeah, it sounds nice. Sounds nice.
Sounds nice to you. I don't like it.
Looking to buy a new or used car? Visit changecars.co.za.
So our next question is from Lehonolo. He's 39 years old from Brits in the Northwest, and he wants us to make him happy before his 40th birthday. So I'm guessing answering his question.
Send him flowers. That'll make him happy.
Send him flowers. Make him happy, Michael.
Sure.
So the problem he's having relates to an ongoing issue with an Aircon unit that he had fitted to his 2019 Nissan Impendulo 16-seater. I'm assuming that's a quantum equivalent.
Correct. Only made it in petrol, though, and that was the reason that vehicle's been discontinued on the South African market.
Okay.
The taxis never took to them.
Yeah.
Ludicrously. If the gentleman with a 2.7 Hilux thinks he's got high fuel consumption, go drive this car.
The
It
Impendulo.
is
You got to look at sometimes at the motor manufacturers and think sometimes you guys make some dumb decisions.
correct.
Yeah.
Do you not know the market? You should know by now that 10,000 Quantums sold a month. Why? Because they got diesel engines.
If I come into a market,
yeah,
I need to copy and do better than what my competitors are doing.
Yeah.
Think about that. Copy and do better. Now you go and not copy and you do worse than what
Carrying
they're doing.
lemons.
100%.
and you wonder why it's a flop.
crazy.
Anyway, what is
crazy,
his
crazy.
problem?
So the problem is he bought the car brand new and he ordered it with aircon from the factory. The bus arrived and it had no aircon. Big problem, right?
Because they come standard without aircon.
Okay. And a Nissan dealership in Pretoria then had one fitted for him after the fact in their workshop. Now, the issue he's having is that the engine management light keeps being triggered every time he turns the aircon on. Now, it can easily be reset, from what I understand. But every time he switches on the aircon, the light comes on. And he says he's been asking for help on this issue because despite the best efforts of the dealership, the problem is still not being resolved. What can he do? He needs our advice.
How much
Because-
do you know about this? Because I fortunately got an intricate knowledge, just pure luck because of the taxi
Let
business.
him go. Yeah.
Close the dealership down if they can't fix it.
Burn it.
Well, let's have a look at it. First of all, as Mike said, those vehicles don't come with standard with aircons, so they get shipped out. The dealer doesn't fit them. It'll get shipped out to an aftermarket place that fits aircons to the vehicle.
I never knew
So
that
they-
happened.
Yeah, so it's common. It's a common process. So if you're buying a vehicle that doesn't have an aircon, there's not many of them around nowadays, obviously. But if you do buy a vehicle that doesn't have an aircon, it goes to an aftermarket place that fits a manufacturer's OEM aircon. And what they've done is they've obviously connected, because that aircon needs a supply of power and sensors and things like that to it. And what they've obviously done is they've connected it into the wrong wiring harness somewhere. And every time they put the power on, it's putting a fault up on the engine management system. So they've wired it up wrong. That's all it is. And I'm surprised that the Nissan dealer can't fix it. And I know why, because they never fitted it. They need to send it back to the guy that installed it and say, install the thing properly and don't give it back to him until it's right.
So you've absolutely nailed it. I can tell you right now, factually, 2 in 100 came from Nissan Japan with the aircon factory fitted. He ordered it with a factory aircon.
Yeah.
What they did was they gave him a vehicle that didn't have a factory aircon. The problem is when they wire it, exactly that, incompetent. There's no other word. It's incompetence.
So just for me, he orders it with aircon, selects aircon on there, and
Correct.
it gets delivered without aircon.
Correct. So because so few of them came into South Africa with aircon, 98 out of 100 were available without the aircon. All they did was they took an aftermarket aircon compressor, fitted it, and tapped into the wiring
Yeah,
harness.
it's a cost thing. You see, when you advertise the vehicle that it's cheaper than your competitor, then you go and look in and say, oh, but I want an aircon.
100%.
You know, as opposed to, that's why Quantums do so well. Why?
Yeah.
Because when you go to the factory, say, I want a Quantum, it comes in the Aircon standard.
But an interesting anomaly about this vehicle, and we're going to tell him how to sort it out. An interesting anomaly. Those Nissan Impendulas are prone to the engine management light coming on. I can tell you right now, when it comes on, zero difference. Doesn't retard the performance. It does nothing.
So keep driving.
Keep driving, no problem. You go fill that car up with fuel. It doesn't like the quality of fuel you put in. We have it. Did you hear? He said it's easy to reset.
Yeah. It's
How do you
very
reset
simple.
the engine warning light there without a computer?
Well, a lot of times if you just switch the car off and restart it, it sometimes goes off, or they disconnect the battery.
Disconnect the battery, touch the two terminals. You see that little spark?
Yeah.
Put it back, it's gone.
Yeah.
And that's what he's guaranteed doing. But how do you sort it out?
How does he sort it out?
Easy.
Yeah.
Take it to another Nissan dealership. Tell them it's the first time it's happening. Let them start again. Miracles will happen.
they'll
These
find the
guys
problem.
are doing the same thing again and again, and it's
Okay.
not sorting it out. Okay,
Makes sense.
they're going to find out again. Maybe I'm wrong. There's a wire that's earthed incorrect. Something small. Take it to a new dealership. It's like a doctor. Sometimes you've got a problem, go to another doctor, or don't pay the account.
Yeah.
He'll give you another 6 months to live.
Yeah.
My dad always used to say, if you doctor gives you 6 months to live, don't pay the account. He'll give you another
Give you
6
another
months.
6 months.
Okay? But would you agree with that, going to another dealership completely?
Definitely. It's somebody looking at it with fresh eyes. They'll resolve the
They'll
problem.
pick it up.
And remember, that vehicle would be under warranty.
100%.
So there would be no cost involved. Yeah.
And especially since it has been raised from the very, very beginning. So even if you didn't tell them, but they really do dig deep, they'll say, wait a second, it's not the first time, it's the 17th time it's been raised. And Nissan, I must say, are very good with that.
Okay. I
Shout
love having
out
you
to
guys
Nissan,
over here.
South Africa.
Yeah, shout out to Nissan SA. You guys know your stuff. That's why you're here. And thank you for that. I don't think a lot of people would have figured this one out.
Change Cars proudly endorses Absa Vehicle Finance for your dream car.
All right, so the next one is from Mr. Johan Swart, meneer. He's 75 from Worcester in the Western Cape.
Well pronounced, Gugu. Very
one?
well pronounced. And
Johan
Johan
or-
Swart's easy, but Worcester, I'm impressed.
Worcester.
Not like the sauce.
Yeah, so he needs advice on the following, right? He just needs to know, does he buy a turbocharged, supercharged, or naturally aspirated car? Not for him. So he's looking for a small vehicle for his granddaughter who lives in Cape Town, and he just wants to spoil her. But there's a catch, right? He wants a detailed explanation or detailed reasons for the choices, whether turbo, supercharged, naturally aspirated, which one and why.
Who are you starting with?
You this time.
Well, regarding supercharged, I don't think there's too
Yeah.
many cars that are supercharged in the smaller category.
No.
Supercharged is for big, powerful
engines.
engines.
Yeah.
Personally, couple of key points. His daughter lives in the Western Cape. So if she was in Gauteng or any inland province, it would have been not negotiable, has to be a turbo. Personally, I would still go for a turbo. Yourself, Adam?
Depends on what sort of vehicle you want, and it depends on the sort of performance you need.
And the gearbox, auto and manual.
Well, you
My
know,
opinion.
I would certainly recommend for a youngster to go for a manual. I always think it's great for young people to learn how to drive properly first. Once you've learned how to work a manual gearbox, move on to an automatic, if you want to, because the traffic, and I mean, modern day automatics are very good. So move on to an automatic later on. But always learn on a manual so you learn how to drive it. Because one day you want to go hire a car and they haven't got autos and you got to drive a manual. How do you do it?
Unless it's in 2045,
Yeah.
because there will be no manuals left in
No,
the
sure.
world.
I
is
mean,
there?
it's going to happen. I mean, already now, 80% of the cars sold are
Yeah,
automatic. I would say Western Cape, you don't need all that performance because you're at sea level. You've got enough performance out of a car. You buy a small car that's reliable, that is fuel efficient, and it's trouble free. Modern day turbo cars are very reliable. They're fairly
They
good.
are.
But do you want to give a youngster a car that goes like a rocket, or do you want to give a youngster a car that's reliable, more than enough performance? So it all depends on budget. You can go for anything from like a Suzuki Swift to Suzuki Baleno, which are non-turbocharged cars, or you can go to turbocharged cars. Like, you could get a SUV like a VW T-Roc or something. It's a 1 liter turbocharged
But if you
engine.
took the Suzuki Baleno, which I think is an exceptional car, you can buy that car
Or the
with
Toyota Starlet.
So the Toyota Starlet, magnificent car. The Suzuki Baleno, same car mechanically, but I personally just like the Suzuki more. I think it looks nicer and it's got a bit more tech. But let's use the Baleno as an example. Take a Toyota Urban Cruiser, take a Suzuki Brezza, take a Nissan Magnite. What else would you? Kia Picanto. The Magnite is the only one, as far as I know, that is turbocharged in that category.
Well, it's got the Renault 3-cylinder 1 liter. Shh.
I need to shout that.
Yeah, sorry.
the Tiger?
Got the Renault engine in it, turbocharged, 1 liter turbocharged.
But what will be a nicer drive for a young lady?
The Baleno, all day long. I've driven the Magnite, not a great car. Tinny.
Not a great car compared to the Kiger.
Well, the Kiger is basically the same thing.
Yeah. But the
if
Magnite's
you were
better, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would go for the Baleno.
But Johan's going to buy, when he's finished with us, either the Baleno or the Magnite. You going with the Baleno?
I would buy
Can't
that all
fault
day
it.
long. Yeah, I would buy that all day long because of the simplicity, the ease of it, the lack of things like turbocharger that can fail, and it's just a nicer package,
Sure.
and you're going to save yourself a lot of money.
Now, Johan asked specifically why we would say normally aspirated, why we'd say turbo. I think you've covered it there. The turbo is just one more thing that can go wrong. And sadly, if I say to you, what is the number one reason, in your opinion, that turbos fail?
It's most probably lack of service. It's probably because the one thing a turbo always wants is nice, good, clean oil.
Sure.
And manufacturers have these long service intervals on cars, which they do because when they're new, then you can give you a 15,000 kilometer service interval. That means under warranty, they give you, let's say, a 60,000 kilometer service plan. They only have to do 4 services. If they do it every 10,000 Ks,
Way better.
that's six services. It costs them more. So one of the biggest problems with turbo failure is, of course, lack of oil changes.
But for me, it's something else.
Driver
out,
abuse.
hey?
Yeah, driver abuse.
You're
People
driving
drive
on the
like mad.
highway to Bloemfontein, to Pretoria, driving at 120, 130. That turbo is spinning at anything up to 200,000 revolutions per minute. A turbo works hard. The guy pulls into the Shell Ultra City. He's just been driving at 140. Driving hard, what does he do?
Switches it off.
That turbo is boiling. You get home, you get to the garage, let it idle for 30 seconds, okay? We've got turbos on Mercedes Sprinters buses, 50, 60, 70,000 kilos. Turbo's gone. Same vehicle, 400,000 kilos. Turbo, not giving a day's trouble.
How you treat it.
How do you compare those two?
But you understand what happens when you switch the car off? You get a thing called heat soak. So when you switch something off that's hot, it will actually get hotter before it starts to cool down.
Correct.
So what happens? The turbocharger actually absorbs the heat when it's switched off because there's no coolant going through it to cool it down. There's no air flowing. So the temperature rises and then it starts to fall down. So when it rises, it boils the oil because the oil is now so hot inside the turbocharger that lubricates the turbocharger and it starts to crystallize. It's a bit like cholesterol in your veins.
Sure.
And eventually the oil feed to it gets blocked up. There's not enough oil going through. It doesn't get lubricated properly. It doesn't get cooled properly, and it fails. Modern day turbochargers are good. A lot of them are good for 200,000 Ks, but some are 50, 60,000 Ks. I'm busy fixing an M4 at the moment with 2 turbochargers at 75,000 Ks.
Yes.
They're kaput. Why? Obviously, it's an M4. People don't, grannies don't drive M4s.
But now something interesting as well. Cost of a turbocharger repair is not quite as high as some people think it is. What would it cost to do it cost effectively, not to the BMW agent?
Average turbocharger nowadays, if it's a single turbocharged car, you're looking in the region, varies from car to car, but an average would be about 15,000 range.
Okay. Now that is not cheap, but that is
Not at
not
all.
an engine overall.
If you buy a new turbocharger from the dealer, you can
Quadruple that.
double it, quadruple it, whatever you like. Yeah, so it can be very expensive.
Okay, so what
Have you
do we
learned something today, Guga?
I've learned quite a bit. I've learned quite a bit.
We've tried our hardest.
That's what 30 years ahead?
Yeah.
30 years?
Combined.
60
So,
combined.
so our viewer listener should go and buy a normally aspirated car like a Baleno, even something like a Honda Jazz. Or
But I'd
a
also
Honda Fit
add,
or
guys,
something like that.
naturally aspirated cars with automatic gearbox, especially small capacity engines, they can be dogs at times. You might want to buy it in manual.
If you're used to driving an M3, definitely. But if you've got, the grandchild who's 18 or 21 or
They
whatever
won't
it
know
is,
the difference.
they don't want a race car. They want a
Yeah.
car that gets them from A to B, that's
sure.
lights on fuel. Most girls
Yeah.
don't drive around like lunatics. It's the boys that do that. You know,
Fair,
so the girls
fair.
just want something that's good, reliable. They can go out with their mates for a jaunt and know it's never going to break down them, not going to give them hassle. Take away all the sort of things that
Headaches.
can fail on it.
But again, Johan, for his granddaughter, firstly, I think it's a lovely gesture, but he's got lovely choices.
Yeah.
If you said to me, can he go wrong with a turbocharged vehicle? Definitely not. Will he go wrong with a normally aspirated? No.
Definitely not.
Manual or automatic? Same thing.
I would say a nice
You prefer manual.
1.5 liter, 1.6 liter, 1.4 liter, normally aspirated thing. You'd have a
On
great car.
changecars.co.za, I
I'm
think
sure
there's
you'll
a couple
find a bunch
available.
of them, eh? Yeah.
I'll even
Go
find
look
it
at the
for
website.
her. Guys, thank you so much for your time. It really, really is invaluable. I appreciate having you both in here all the time. And if you need any motoring related advice, whether it be car advice, bike advice, insurance, whatever it is, email us podcast@changecars.co.za and we will do our utmost best to answer your question.
For South Africa's best motoring content, catch all things motoring on DSTV channel 189 and on YouTube. New episodes every week.